Thank you so much, Pastor, for allowing us to come and join you for service. And so good to be here. A lot of familiar faces, some volunteers with Teen Challenge, some graduates, so we feel right at home here. Just a moment, one of our students, Amanda, is going to come and share kind of the tip of the iceberg of what God has transformed her and delivered her from and where he is taking her. But first off, how many of you are familiar with Teen Challenge? David Wilkerson, Cross and Switchblade, quite a few. That's wonderful. Let me just share, I guess the brochures are coming around. It'll give you some basic information about Teen Challenge, some contact information. But for those who are new, let me just give you a quick summary. As Pastor said, it began in 1958 when David Wilkerson was called into New York City. Really, the vision he had was for teenagers that were caught up in gang lifestyle, such as Nicky Cruz. And there was a wonderful revival that started on the streets of the city. Pretty soon, they were ministering to drug addicts. They started a year-long Christian discipling program that ended up not being just for gangs or for drug addicts and alcoholics, but any kind of life-controlling problem, and thus any age. Not just teenagers anymore. From those early days, it's become an international ministry. There are over 1,000 residential discipleship centers around the world. There's over 200 here in the United States. The demand, of course, unfortunately, wish we could close centers, but the demand around the world is just off the hook and crazy. Here in the Sacramento area, it started in 1974. And over 40 years later, we have 4 residential centers for men and women. Now, we minister to men and women who are 18 years and older. Minors, we refer to centers that just care for minors. At any one point in time in those 4 centers, we take care of about 90 men, women, and children. And they stay from 13 to 16 months in length. I could leave one prayer request with you today. You could remember Teen Challenge in this. Right now, we're in the process of building a 5th center. It's called the Happy Valley Women and Children's Center. Happy Valley is just outside the town of Redding, and they don't call it Happy Valley because they're happy. They call it Happy Valley because of all the drugs in the area. Good place for a Teen Challenge, right? When it's built, we're looking at November, when the construction will be completed. Pray it's on time. And it will be able to handle 64 women and children at a time. Amen. We desperately need that. So pray with us. We have a long way to go to get this center furnished and so forth. But if you'd like more information about the Happy Valley Women and Children's Center, or Teen Challenge in general, there is a booth in the foyer, a lot more information. Glad to answer any questions you have and minister help in any way that's possible. Also, our women handmade jewelry. We're remiss not to tell you that today you can purchase their jewelry. And ladies, you can go shopping today, buy jewelry, and support missions. So I can't make it any easier than that. So we also have our miracle banquets coming up, our fall banquets. There's a few of them in the area in September and October. And if you'd like to know more about Teen Challenge, today you'll hear one testimony, but these are very dramatic, inspirational evenings. If you'd like to get to know the ministry better, bring people even that don't know the Lord, or maybe they're struggling. There are always people even at banquets, even though they're fundraisers, they get saved, come in the program every year from our banquets. So whatever the need may be, the tickets are free. All you have to do is go to the booth, pick them up, and join. So thank you so very much for having us today. Join with me now in welcoming Amanda as she comes.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Amanda. I'm 23 years old. Growing up, there was little stability. I had lived in 4 different states by the time I was 13 years old because of my dad's career. Every time I began to adapt and make friends, I had to pick up everything and start over somewhere else. The one thing that had proven stable in my life was church. I grew up in a Christian home and had attended a private school during my elementary years. Unfortunately, because of my experience there, I had viewed God as punishing and condemning. By the time I got into my teens, I found myself constantly striving to feel accepted, and I began to fall into the wrong type of crowd. I was seeking love in all the wrong places and got into a very abusive relationship at 16 years old. He was a few years older than I and was also a drug dealer. We were together for 2 years, and I started abusing painkillers and alcohol to cope with the pain of that relationship. At 18, I began promoting for nightclubs in the Sacramento area, and in that scene, my alcohol use became out of control, and I started using cocaine. Soon after, I was introduced to meth and heroin, and it became a daily habit. My life had become a roller coaster for the next 4 years, and I felt like I was in a never-ending cycle. I was in one toxic relationship after the next, and I lost everything, and I ultimately lost who I was. I was constantly putting myself in dangerous situations, and at one point, I was held against my will overnight by a man where I was brutally attacked. After that, I was utterly broken. I entered a secular program, and I had gotten clean and sober for 4 months. I began working at a detox center, was chairing AA and NA meetings, and I thought I was doing everything right. However, my resentment towards God still lingered, and I refused to turn to him. I was battling severe depression because of the trauma I had experienced, and eventually I turned to alcohol. I had lost all hope and truly believed I was the lost cause. I went right back into the same lifestyle I was in before. I hated what my life had become and who I had become. I finally cried out to God one night and asked for him to give me a sign if he's there. A couple of days went by and nothing had changed, so I tried to take my own life by drug overdose. I woke up the next morning only by the grace of God. That same day, I was arrested on a narcotics charge, and it's because of that arrest that I came to Teen Challenge. God answered my prayer that night and had orchestrated each and every event in my life to bring me where I am today. I've now been in the program and been clean for 10 months. Thank you. Since being in the program, my life has completely turned around. I have a close relationship with Christ that I've never had before. I no longer have a negative view of God, but I see him as my loving and forgiving Father. Because I have surrendered and said, not my will, but yours, he has delivered me from my depression and my drug addiction. What used to be a daily battle in my life no longer exists. I have a sense of peace and joy I can't even begin to put into words, and I have a hope for my future. I recently got accepted into William Jessup for this fall, where I plan on studying psychology. Thank you. God willing, I'll be able to someday counsel and minister to other women who have gone through depression, addiction, and abuse. It's because of people like you why I'm standing here today, and thank you all for all of your support and for your prayers, and thank you for listening to my testimony.